Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So today I'm going to be talking about a subject that could be really sensitive to some people, and it's hotly debated, and that is open source versus proprietary. Now, if you are brand new to the whole world of the Linux desktop operating system and just open source in general, then this might seem kind of weird. But for people who have been using Linux as a desktop operating system for a while, then they completely understand what I'm talking about. And so if you're not familiar, there is an open source software world versus a proprietary software world. And for the majority of people, they're either using Microsoft Windows or Apple's Mac OS, and that is proprietary software. And so for a lot of people, they don't even know about it, nor do they even care. And in general, what open source means is that the software, the code is freely available. It's open. That means that people could actually go on the internet and see how the software is built and then manipulate it and edit it and then put it back into the open source community. Okay, now when it comes to proprietary software, you basically cannot see the code. It's proprietary, and so it's not open to the world and it's not open to manipulation. And that's why you actually have to pay operating system software licenses, or if it's not a operating system, it's other software. If it's proprietary, you're normally going to have to pay some type of licensing fee in order to use it. But once again, the whole code, it's not freely available, and it's owned by the companies who actually put out that piece of software. And so that's in general what that is. And the whole reason why I feel this whole open source versus proprietary, that I really don't care for it much at all, is because it's not that super important. And the reason why I say that is this. If you are in the modern age and you're using the internet or you're using any piece of technology every single day, well, you're using both open source and proprietary, because there are a lot of people who are passionate about the open source software and the open source community. And I completely understand that. But the thing is, whenever people within the open source community, and this is not a large group of people, okay, it's a small percentage out of the whole amount of people in the open source community, when they start like attacking people, which is horrible, start making people feel stupid because they don't understand open source, or just make people feel bad about using something like Microsoft's operating system or Apple's Mac operating system or any other piece of software that's not open source, then in my opinion, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of you using open source. Because the whole idea of using open source, being in the open source community, is having freedom. But whenever people are attacking you for the choices that you make, you know, whether it is open source or proprietary software, then that makes absolutely no sense. And that, I think, is probably the biggest problem whenever people come into the Linux desktop operating system and the open source community, is that they face things like that. And unfortunately, that is not a good experience. Okay, because overall, whenever I do any of my Linux desktop operating system videos, I actually want people to see that there is an alternative. I want people to see all the joys that come into using the Linux desktop operating system and all the other open source software that's available and the community that surrounds it, instead of feeling like, oh, why am I even using this stuff if people are going to be so mean? Okay, and so that's why I really feel that this whole debate of open source versus proprietary, it makes absolutely no sense. Because even if you are a super hardcore open source person, the majority of everything that you use, it's both proprietary and open source. I mean, if you want to be 100% open source, then just don't use the internet, because the internet uses both proprietary and open source pieces. Okay, I mean, all the internet backbones, the servers, they're probably not all using everything that's open source. And on the flip side, if you are really heavily into proprietary, then they're still going to use open source components. Let me give you a good example. You're watching YouTube videos right now, right? That's owned by a company called Google, and they use a lot of servers to run everything. Of course, they use a lot of Linux servers, but they probably use a lot of proprietary software, including Microsoft Windows and Apple's Mac OS as well. And so there's really no way around that. And another thing that I've seen is that whenever I was in the proprietary world, I really didn't have too many people attack me. There wasn't like this proprietary source community that was attacking other people because they were not using proprietary software. And I would argue that anybody in the open source community will probably feel the same way. There isn't a huge group of proprietary people forcing you to use proprietary software. Now, one could argue that Microsoft and Apple is forcing you to use their products, but you don't have to buy them, right? You can use Linux. But whenever you're in the open source community, it's completely different, So I really feel that it's something that, once again, it makes no sense because most of the times open source software is free. And the second thing, and it kind of goes into everything I said, but honestly, who cares? I mean, you're using your computer. It's a piece of software, okay? And use whatever works well for you. That's always been my stance on every single video, whether it is open source or proprietary. You use what works the best for you. Use the right tools for whatever you need. And it's a fairly simple process. And if you are the type of person who is extremely passionate about open source or proprietary and you want to spread the news to the world, then create something. I think that's a lot, in my opinion, better use of your time and energy than being really angry and going into the comments and just leaving really mean things to people who just want to learn or enjoy what they're using. Okay, so that is it today for my thoughts on the whole open source versus proprietary and how it really honestly doesn't matter. And I also did another video about operating systems and why people don't care. So it's very similar to this. If you want to see that, I'll leave that in the description area below. And so if you had any thoughts on this, whether you agree or whether you disagree, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did enjoy these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators Group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.